Bill Goldberg appeared on Tim Green's Nothing Left Unsaid podcast. Tim Green played for the Atlanta Falcons at the same time that Goldberg did. He was diagnosed a few years ago with ALS. He just started a new show with his son, which was pretty amazing to watch him. If you actually watch the interview, to watch him communicating only with his eyes. I know they have devices that allow people with ALS to use their eye movement to trigger certain letters and certain words. So you could hear his voice. They had his actual voice programmed in there, even though he can't actually speak anymore. He's just speaking in a different way. Now, I know this technology is not new, but it's still pretty incredible to see it in action if you're not familiar with it. But anyway, on the podcast, Goldberg made it very clear that he did not and does not like Triple H. And he brought up some things that he directly links to Triple H not liking him. One such thing involved his undefeated streak from WCW. He brought up the fact that WWE had, quote, some Japanese girl beat his undefeated streak. Now, he was talking about his second run with the company. This is when he came back in 2016. He said, well, a girl beat my winning streak, beat my undefeated streak. I can't even remember. Asuka was her name, some Japanese girl, and they touted her as being the one to have the longest winning streak, and it just so happened that it culminated when I got there. This is from the same Bill Goldberg, who tweeted back at Asuka, not Asuka, congratulating her and telling her the streak is in very good hands. That was in response at the time to Asuka tweeting that she respects Goldberg so much, and she called him amazing. If only that respect could be reciprocated. He knows exactly who Asuka is, and yet he disrespects the woman by mispronouncing her name and referring to her as some Japanese girl. That Japanese girl has more wrestling talent in her left ass cheek than Goldberg has in his entire body. Not to mention the fact that he has no idea what he's talking about. Goldberg came back to the company in 2016. Asuka did not pass his streak until May of 2017. It was at an NXT live event over Bianca Belair. So I'm not sure how he figures it culminated when he got there. His run was already over by that point. He didn't come back again until the following year. After his match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, he came out on Raw the next night, he did a promo, and he left. And then a month and a half later, Asuka then passed his streak. So I'm not sure how he figures it culminated when he got there. But his conspiracy theory, I guess, is that Triple H had Asuka beat his streak at the same time that he came back to the company. Which would mean, now think about this, this would mean that Triple H was conspiring to break Goldberg's streak as far back as 2015, when Asuka's streak first began. And he had to also know that Goldberg would come back to the company the following year. Perhaps Triple H is from the future. I mean, he did dress up as the Terminator for his match with Sting at WrestleMania, so maybe he really is. I think Goldberg may have headbutted one too many lockers, because what he is saying doesn't even make sense. And by the way, Goldberg's 173-0 streak is complete horseshit. WCW started embellishing wins for him to pad the streak, and the fans started to catch on to what they were doing. So whatever the genuine number is, Asuka would have passed it long before Goldberg came back to the company anyway. But in the same interview, Goldberg expanded on his Triple H conspiracy theory by pointing out that, well, so many people started using the spear. He said, and then it just so happened that every single wrestler uses the spear in their moves, right? Pretty ironic that happened when I got there, right? Well, of course. I mean, don't you remember Edge first using the spear in 2016? Even though he had already been retired for 5 years? Or how about when Rhino first started using the gore that same year? Or Lashley, or Batista, or Roman Reigns, or anyone else who was already using the move for years before Goldberg came back. No, it only happened right at the moment of his return. That damn Triple H. See, I'll tell you what's going on here. Bill is salty. He's very salty that he never got the retirement match that Vince McMahon supposedly promised him. He said that he got the call to wrestle Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia on 2 weeks' notice and he had COVID at the time. And he only agreed to put Roman over if Vince promised him and gave him a retirement match. So he went and he put Roman over. Vince never gave him a retirement match. And so he's been bitching about it ever since. So Vince McMahon told him what he wanted to hear in order to get him to do what he wanted, and then he lied to him. Bret Hart knows all about that, but somehow I don't think Bret is going to be sympathetic to Goldberg. Vince McMahon and WWE do not owe shit to Bill Goldberg. The man got paid very well to work a very select number of matches per year. When he came back, he said he wanted to come back for one reason. He wanted to come back so that his son could see him wrestle. He came back, he beat Brock Lesnar in 90 seconds, and his son got to see him play Superman. He got what he wanted. And then he stuck around. He got one last championship run, and then he and Brock got their redemption arc at WrestleMania to make up for that terrible match, that shit show that they had in 2004. WrestleMania 33 would have been the perfect way for him to ride off into the sunset, but he kept cashing those fat checks and coming back to do whatever they wanted him to do, and that included burying The Fiend, that included him nearly killing The Undertaker, and that included him wrestling Roman Reigns for the Universal title. In fact, 7 of his last 10 matches in WWE were championship matches. And yeah, he may have lost the majority of those, but I would say between that and them putting him in the Hall of Fame in 2018, WWE treated him very well during that last run, especially considering how much animosity there was the way he left in 2004. So for him to go on a podcast and cry conspiracy over the way he was treated is beyond absurd. If he wants a retirement match so bad, I hope Triple H brings him back and has Braun Breaker spear the fuck out of him.